Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae, also known as Wildbow. You can read Worm in its original format by visiting parahumans.wordpress.com or donate to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. This story isn't intended for young or sensitive readers. Readers who are on the lookout for trigger warnings are advised to give Worm a pass. For a complete list, check the description for all of Worm's trigger warnings.
Take that, you worms. Allan, we're in Arc 23. How does that feel?
We're so far. We're so far. We're so close. I'm so ready for Ward.
We're getting there. It's close. Got a few more arcs to go. This is a short arc. Like, a lot happens. There's a lot of good moments, but it's relatively short compared to arcs before and after. It's only 5 chapters in an interlude.
Yeah.
So some fun stuff to kind of get into here as we ramp up towards the behemoth fight, which is going to be that's pretty much the climactic fight of probably the season.
Yeah,
I think we'll kind of see.
Yeah, and we've talked about before in this arc that. Or not this arc, but this season, I think the correct goal is to go, towards the behemoth fight as the finale, rather than, I'll be honest, I'm trying to remember what happens in the next couple of arcs by number, but, I know what happens in the back half of this. But I think the behemoth fight needs to be the season finale for this one.
It's tricky because I kind of agree, but at the same time, that would be putting the Slaughterhouse 9000 with all of the Jack and Gollum stuff and all of the Scion stuff in the final season. Which maybe that's good, maybe that'll work, but I feel like that could also sort of overload the final season a bit. So maybe you get through the Slaughterhouse 9000 in this season. But again, maybe that bloats this too much with that and Behemoth. So it's a little tricky. Okay,
well, I mean, here's a couple things for this season. This season has really been heavily Taylor focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way we split this up is, we talked about Dragon and Defiant essentially running around continuing to do their chase of the Slaughterhouse 9.
Yep.
I think, that's a side story. I think the Irregulars / the Cauldron hunting / Cauldron intrigue be another part of this that you can still jump back to. Maybe even, if you wanted to, you could go back to the Undersiders for a few clips here and there.
Oh yeah, easily. And you'd absolutely 100% do that. One thing, even reading Worm, one thing that always bothered is the wrong word, but I did hate how at this point in the story, the Undersiders are essentially just gone from the story, aside from a few moments. Like, they really are, because it is Taylor's story. It's her POV, or it makes sense when you're reading it. But just as a fan of those characters, we see so little of them moving forward. Again, I'm being a little, I'm exaggerating that there, but I think that's one thing that audiences would really, really dislike, is if the show pulled away from the Undersiders as much as the serial does.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think keeping Taylor at least in contact with Tattletale and then showing the Undersiders doing their stuff. I think for this season it works to have her, like, they're in the first half. There's like one or two episodes in the middle, a couple episodes in the middle in which they're kind of absent, and then they're back again to meet her. And then we kind of maybe follow them doing their own thing while she is doing her thing with the wards. So, like, I feel like they'd be in there enough pretty easily. And then in the last season, there's so much going on. I think as long as we showed them a little bit, like, there's so much going on. I think the last season is more about wrapping up loose ends than it is about staying with the Undersiders necessarily.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, my opinion will always change as I reread these arcs. In my mind, though, the last season is entirely everything that has to do with Scion leading up to and through Gold Morning.
Yeah.
Like, I think you literally, like, the last season is just the climax. It's everything. It's just everything coming to fruition. It's the end of the world. Like,
yeah.
You just do the whole final season as that, and save an full episode at the very end as like your cool down epilogue. But that's why I was thinking, like, maybe it's too bloated to try to do the Slaughterhouse 9000, everything post Behemoth.
I really do think we scrapped the Slaughterhouse 9000 for the most part. I think just having Gollum track down Jack with Taylor and them. If
that's mostly what I'm referring to. Yeah.
If we were to invent a season, which I think would be perfectly doable, I think the season would be focusing on a Suicide Squad of Gollum, Taylor, Dragon Defiant, and it would be the hunt of Jack Slash trying to stop the end of the world. And a lot of Slaughterhouse 9 versus them antics.
You said season, you mean like storyline?
If we were inventing and literally, I think it would deserve to take up an entire season if we're gonna treat it that way. Chasing down the Slaughterhouse 9 and all the destruction they're causing. But as it stands, I think you would just roll the end of this season with the Behemoth fight. The next one, you maybe spend 1 or 2 episodes tracking and fighting Jack. And we'll just say there's 10 episodes. The next 8 episodes being a combination of talking to Cauldron, fighting Cauldron, fighting Scion, like all the different things. Like, there's a lot that goes on there.
You're talking about the next season or this season?
Next season.
Okay.
Next season for sure. Let's get into this arc specifically. I got some notes for this arc, and then we can talk about bigger plot stuff. Circle back to that. Yeah.
I got a couple notes as well. What do you got?
All right. So 23.1 I had at the end. This is a lot of new faces. This is a lot of new faces. And not only that, but we're going to be seeing, like, every arc or every chapter after this is just a whole new group of people, basically. And I think that's too many. I'm okay doing the, like, here's all the teams. Like, I would not even have all the young people. I'd just have all the team leads telecom in or, drop in. And so there's like 5 of them or something. And they like, hey, Chicago's basically like, we'll take her. And then they go on. She goes with her team. And she stays with one consistent team that is running around maybe helping other people. So like when they go to Vegas, like she's still with her team. When they go to was it Chicago or New York or wherever, they're still with her team. Like I think I think you could have the new Vegas or the Vegas Capes still do their betrayal thing. It is still a lot. It's a lot for a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty easy solution here that's pretty baked into the story already. It makes a lot of sense. Because I agree. I really like a lot that what happens in these chapters. There's a lot of good stuff, but the amount of new characters that don't stick around or aren't too relevant, like this is very, very easy. This is the Chicago Wards. We just bump up their introduction and her assimilation with them to now. We've already met them, which is perfect because they get introduced briefly at the end of the last season, and now they're sort of main players. Like that's just how you introduce characters in TV shows.
Yeah,
introduce them, now they're main characters, and then you start and you replace all these. They keep the scenes. You just replace the characters with the Chicago Wards. That's her team now.
Yeah, I think the Chicago Wards. You take the Vegas Wards, and you cut their number in half so that the important ones are like there's like 2 of them and then Pretender, and they're still all Chicago, Chicago team, and they still do the betrayal, but we have that take place basically all the way to the Behemoth fight. Like it is a subterfuge. We're keeping Pretender on lockdown. And it is that way. It's felt as more of a blow that like, no, why should we go fight Behemoth? The world's ending soon. Can't you see that like this is all broken? Yada yada yada. And then they escape and leave. Yeah, I think having that happen within the team that she's working with would feel more impactful. And it cuts down on the total number of people we got to deal with. Also, I think you could cut the Bambina fight, probably. I think we just make this a number man fight, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, and you could tie that more in with Cauldron, that like Pretender did something. They're pretty sure it's with Cauldron. He basically had to cash in his favor, that Cauldron asks him to do, and that's why he did whatever he did. And then, I'm
in agreement there. Yeah, I think
honestly, most of my notes for all of these chapters is like, man, this chapter is such an aside compared to the overarching plot. We really need to tie all this together. Behemoth at the end, and then build up the Chicago Wards a lot more, so that when we get to the Behemoth fight, if we make it the finale, that's when they go, "Hey, you're in charge."
Yeah, I really like that that conversation between Taylor and was it Tecton?
Yeah.
It's a great moment. I love that moment in the last chapter. And she just sort of like, okay, and takes charge, and they're all just sort of like, yep. Because again, like reading it, that makes a lot of sense because you're like, oh yeah, the Chicago Wars, they saw her fight Echidna. Like there's some built-in respect there at that point.
Yeah.
But for viewers, if you don't build up to that moment, it loses so much impact. Because now viewers are going back like, in a perfect world, maybe a year ago when the last season came out. Oh yeah, that team that was there. Okay, here they are again. Okay, so they trust her. That's fine. But like that's a good moment. You want that to hit. So you need to see. I really think, like you said, I think you need to build up the Chicago Wards a bit more before the fight actually happens. Build up a relationship with them. Just kind of drive it home a little bit.
Yeah, especially if we start off with her basically handicapped. Hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, and her being like, okay, hey, I'm bottom rung on the totem pole. I'm going to try and both prove myself, but also, hang back a little to learn what's going on. So at the start, she's listening for orders. She's doing all this yada yada. But then when push comes to shove, things go down. She, does ultimately have the experience to, and just the talent, like, we've talked about using butterflies to beat the bad guys. Like, she ultimately has the talent to win tactically in a lot of these fights. So, when things, have her follow orders for the first fight, have her, step up a little bit more in the second fight. And then the third fight, Tecton gets buried or something for a second. So she takes over and starts giving orders real quick. And it finally leads to the behemoth fight where they're like, you clearly are the experienced person that we need to like get through this. You're a veteran compared to everyone else. Go ahead and take charge.
Yeah. I think this is one of those sort of like overarching themes that I think you can just really sell through a visual medium, because one thing that I love about Worm is the way Wildbow just sort of very naturally progresses the story, so that when you reach Gold Morning, Taylor's decisions feel very, very natural. And it's a lot of these slow builds where she is put in a leadership position. She is given that tactical overhead control and steps right into it. And people are willing to listen to her because they sort of understand that she's got a bit of a mind for that. Probably like a byproduct, a small thinker power.
Yeah.
And it just happens over and over again throughout the story, where she's put in control and she does what she thinks is best, and people listen to her. Of course, consensually at this point.
Yeah.
But it's just the way that builds towards Gold Morning is great, because then we get there and she takes over everything, because that's what she's been doing. And finally she has the ability to just bypass asking, right? And just do it. And it's just such a natural step for her. I absolutely love it. And I think I love these moments, and I think we want to kind of highlight them in as subtle way as possible, so that when we get to Gold Morning, Taylor's rise and fall feels earned and feels justified.
Yeah.
The comparison I like to make is because you are essentially in this story, you are leading. It's a tragedy. From beginning to end, it is a tragedy. It's a Greek tragedy. It hits all the beats of a Greek tragedy. And Taylor's eventual fall, despite, quote, winning the day, is sad. It's like a sad ending.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, but it's sad. And you want to avoid the same pitfalls we see in a lot of other shows that attempt to do that, like the obvious one being Game of Thrones, right? Everybody wanted Daenerys on the Iron Throne, but she doesn't get it, and it's sad. And that should hit. That should be a satisfying ending, but it wasn't, mostly because it was rushed. But a lot of it because it just didn't feel deserved at the end. Like, her whole plot, and I'm going to go on a little tangent, Daenerys' whole plot of freeing the slaves, of championing the small folk, which the class division is such a major theme within Game of Thrones.
The more you're making me think about this, the more I'm like, no, the Daenerys Taylor arcs are the same.
There are some similarities.
Yeah, keep going. I'm running through this now.
Yeah, so I mean, and Daenerys goes through all these trials. She's constantly having to work for everything, but she's getting there. She's doing it, and then in the show, she gets to King's Landing and burns the town of small folk and people, and they're just what? Aren't those, like, they would have followed you? Like, you just killed your own people. Like, it's a bizarre choice. And again, could have worked, I think, if they had built her rise a bit differently. I would have done it differently, but that's aside from the point. All that to say, Daenerys' eventual tragic fall did not click with anybody. Yeah. Nobody liked it. It was a complete failure of a character arc. And you can learn a lot of lessons from it. And I think we can when I'm trying to do Taylor's arc, because like you just said, I think there are a lot of similarities. But Taylor's, especially when reading the story, it works so much better because by the time you get to that moment, which is, it's an evil moment, right? It is control of people without their consent. It is complete and total control of the universe is what she has there. And it's evil. She's doing it for internalized justification, and it worked out for her, but it could have easily not worked out for her, right? All that to say, it's a tragic fall. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but it's a sad, tragic end to this story, and we want to make sure that when we get there, audiences are like crying because they're enjoying the fall, not because they are hating the character.
Yeah.
So
because now you got me thinking about Game of Thrones and how like you could have ended with the same. I wouldn't have kept everything, but you could have ended with the whole like Jon and her having the face off in the throne room and all that.
Oh,
you
yeah,
could have had
100%.
her burn the city. You just have to prep that arc better. Like that could have been an enjoyable. Yeah, fuck the city, burn it down. Like the audience is with you and gets it.
Yeah,
but in this case, we didn't understand why the hell she was doing such a stupid thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to get to Gold Morning and for the audience to go, what is she doing this stupid thing for? Taylor, what are you doing? Like you want them to feel it with her. So
yeah,
I think little moments like this are really important, that we give her these moments where she does get to take charge and people are listening to her, and she is that tactician. She thinks she knows what's best, right? This is the type of stuff that we get in a lot of the inner monologue when reading the story that we have to now visually show because we don't have the crutch of the internal monologue.
Agreed.
Yeah. I'm really excited to debate the morality of Taylor's decision at the end of this, because I also have thoughts.
It's good. I know. We're kind of hinting at a little bit.
Yourself, boy.
I know. Hey, this is the spoiler podcast, but yeah, no, it's going to be great when we get there. There's so much to talk about, both on the book club side and for adaptations. I think there's a lot of fun stuff to get into. Back into Arc 2023. I just had a couple other notes, but nothing too big in terms of the arc itself.
Well, go for it, because I'm out of notes. I've said my notes.
Yeah. A couple of small things. This is the arc we learned that Atlas died, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do our boy a bit better. I think he dies during the Echidna fight, if I'm going to throw it out there, but open to suggestions on that one. I think we give Atlas the old Antony routine from Ant-Man.
Yes.
Make the audience fall in love with him and then just rip it
wish
from their hearts.
Those movies were more memorable to care. Who were we talking about?
Antony was the one ant that Ant-Man named. And Pym was like, don't name the ants. It's like, I'm naming this one Antony. And Antony gets shot out from under him while he's in the climactic fight. And everyone's sad, even though it's just a freaking ant, We got to give Atlas the exit he deserves.
Did that happen in Ant-Man 1?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, what a forgettable movie.
Hold your tongue. I love that movie.
What a forgettable protagonist.
Oh, yeah, it hurts.
What a forgettable actor.
Okay, well, now we're just throwing around hate speech.
That is correct. Now I'm just saying I believe all those things, but also now I am just being hurtful.
At least you acknowledge it.
Atlas gets a better ending. That's one thing I noted. Just small little things. I love reading about the whole Weaver Dice game, but we gotta cut that. There's just no room for it. It's a lot of fun though. We should play some Weaver Dice. That'd be fun.
I mean, where could we possibly play some Weaver dice, Jacob?
That's a good question. Maybe our patrons would be interested.
Oh my goodness. On Patreon? Is that where you could find us rolling up characters? And maybe if you donated enough money, we would consider playing a game?
Oh, well, it just might be.
Let's go!
Hannah,
even Hannah thinks so.
Yeah. No, that'd be fun. But yeah, probably cut that. We get more Miss Yamada here, which reminded me again that I do really like her character. And I do think we should probably go back and put more Miss Yamada in very periodically, not often. But even prior to the interlude, I would go back even to like season 1 and just have her, throw her in there. I think she's a great character, and I would not be opposed to having her more present in the story overall.
Because I think there's some moments where maybe you could get. Okay, so here's my issue is while it's important to have a therapist there, I feel like that's a season 2 thing, given how everything goes down in season 1.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, sure. You could easily do that post Leviathan.
Because it's one of the changes that like canonically Weld wants to do. He's got all these big ideas.
Right.
And I think, sending people to therapy would be a good one. And it would also be great to be like, hey, also Amy, despite you not being on the team, if you want to get in on that. And she's like, nah, bro, I can do it without therapy.
Yeah.
Like a dumb bitch.
Yeah. So that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. But that's a great point for having like Vista come in and talk and.
Yeah, exactly.
Have them unpack a lot of the stuff. And then I'm trying to remember what she would do in season 3, because season 3 is really busy. I'll swear, but yeah.
And again, you don't always have to, not every character is in every episode. It's, it's periodic. It's when the story calls for it. But
yeah. You're right. I think, throw her in like every 3rd episode, just a reminder that she exists.
Yeah. Just a background character, but I think she's a really strong background character.
Yes.
Couple other small things. I like the jetpack. I really like the conversation between Taylor and Armsmaster here, and I think it would work a lot better if we kind of are doing what we're talking about, which is sort of giving Armsmaster and Dragon more of a side quest, sort of B or C plot over the last season and a half. Getting to this conversation, I think, will help because I love this conversation.
Yeah,
it's a really, really nice coming full circle moment from when they first meet in the first chapter or first arc. Yeah, great moment, and I really want to make sure that hits hard. It's a good moment. Also, a couple other things because like when reading this, I was reminded of how I felt when I first read it, which is, they're setting up Armsmaster to die. Like, this is it. They're giving him his redemption. He's done it. He's fought the 9. He's reconciled with Taylor. He's going against Behemoth. This is the send off. And then reading the next arc and realizing, oh no, it was Alec's send off. We probably should have heard more from him a little bit. And I do think that, especially if we do want to put Undersiders more into the story for the season, that there's a focus there on Alec, a subtle focus, but a little bit more of a focus because next arc's coming, and we want the audience to cry.
True. Yeah.
That's all my my main chapter notes. We can talk about the interlude for a little bit, but that's all I got for like the first those 5 chapters.
Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot else. I think just, like I said, maybe scattering these things. We've already talked about everything. I don't feel like this really needs that much attention.
Yeah. talking about the interlude real quick, because we had a couple commenters, a couple of our patrons, talking about Cody and Cody's role in the story. Dora the Dude was talking about how we sort of wrote and / killed off Cody back in last season with the Traveler's Arc, which I do stand by.
Oh, I stand by completely, and I double it down after reading this.
after reading, I do agree. I don't like Cody's inclusion in the story at this point. It feels, again, I kind of use this term a lot, but it feels unearned, right? It feels really random that we get him now. It feels like a cop-out just to kill Accord and trip up Chevalier and Tattletale. I'm not opposed to Accord dying at all. And I get why in the story it works, but this would be I think at this point would be a very hard sell for a TV series specifically to not change this. To wrap up the Traveler's Arc last season, send them all back home, and then in the climactic battle of the next season, the one Traveler we forgot about shows up to kill Accord. It's a little jarring.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I do really like the Yangban and the different approach to Cape. What's the word I'm thinking of? Like
Cape dynamics.
Yeah, thank you. Cape dynamics. Really fun to see something beyond Brockton Bay in the US, right? Really, really like seeing them in action. And
it's fun. It's not just them, but I mean, it's fun seeing the other teams.
Yeah.
It's a big 100%. Note that I'm going to talk about in the book club, but just seeing the different dynamics, we talk about the hot cold of India. We talk about the Yangban's sort of collective power set.
Yep.
The subterfuge focus of Vegas.
I mean, the opening scene, the visualization of the Yangban goes so hard. Like the opening shot of them they're like on a rooftop or something, all 42 of them. They get blasted by Behemoth's clap and then collectively use Cody's power to just like unblast them back into position is just the coolest visual.
I mean, it's the shield and then them all doing the lasers together. Like,
yeah. Oh, it would go so hard and they're so cinematic.
I think it would be great as just sort of a cool off, side thing during the Behemoth fight. Like, I don't think you need to include Cody in that at all.
No, I agree. I don't think Cody needs to be a part of it. I mean, obviously you've got the easiest answer for how Accord dies with the fact that Behemoth is there. Like Behemoth can just kill him. If you wanted to go a little bit more complex with it, because Accord would probably be a little bit smarter than that to be in Behemoth's way, you pick your poison. There's a number of different ways or characters that could kill him if you wanted to. I haven't even really put too much thought into it, but there's some different answers. We don't need Cody there to be the one holding the gun.
Yeah.
I think that about wraps up Arc 23 here. Next arc will be Behemoth, which is going to be a lot of fun to get into. It's a long arc.
Oh boy.
Fight.
Oh yes.
A lot of fun moments in this that I remember.
Yep. And then after that, it's we get the time skip. So we're coming up on these big moments.
I think it's always easier to like work with these big moment stuff. It's like more clear whether you should keep it or cut it or manipulate it or whatever. So that'll be fun. But yeah.
I know we talk so much on this podcast about like, oh, well, it's really going to depend when we get to this moment, how we're going to work everything else around it. And I feel like we've been saying that a lot recently.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We've had Alexandria and now Behemoth are like the two big moments of the season.
Mhm.
So it's going to be nice to finally have them out
Once
of the way.
those are laid out, everything else will be easier to kind of
Exactly.
around
Kind of
them.
put some structure to the season for
Mhm.
sure.
But
Mm-mm.
thanks for sticking with us through these other arcs that are harder to figure out.
And with that, I mean, listen, we say it all the time, but give us your thoughts. This is it's a really fun challenge. I've said this
Mhm.
many times, responding to comments and ideas. Love reading them because this is the really fun part about adaptations is when you get to these like nitty-gritty chapters that you kind of just want to skip over, but has important stuff that you need for the story, and trying to figure out how to work that in and spread it out. So hit us up. What are your ideas? Let us know. Reach out to us. Put it in the comments. YouTube, Reddit. Our patrons have some exclusive chats that they're a part of. If you want to join that, we'd love to have you.
Mhm.
Let us know what you're thinking. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear somebody defend Cody. Give me a reason to keep that bastard in the story. I want to hear it.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean it's a
Thank you,
short one,
Michael.
but it's going to be a longer next episode. So thanks for listening. And yeah, I guess we'll end it there. I think that's a nice little breath before.
Better for all the better for Michael to edit.
Yeah, we
That's
cut
right.
him a break this week. You're welcome, Michael. And on
Join
that
the
note,
Patreon.
join the Patreon, and we'll see you next week. Take that, you worms. Almost forgot it.
Thank you so much for listening. Read along with us at parahumans.wordpress.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you love? What did you hate? Anything you think we missed, etc., as long as it's kind. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit at Brocktonbaybc, or click the link in the description.